Hello there, everybody. Welcome to something that kind of came up a little bit last minute, but my personal goal is to watch two really good teams at this game and learn a thing or two about the game. I also have Nine joining me, who graciously agreed to wake up an hour earlier than me because he's in Central Time, um, to keep me company while doing this. Nine, how you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we're going to be watching Dream, which is a pickup consisting of Tera, Kyo, Zero, and Power, all names you probably recognize at this point, versus Pixio Monster. And I'm not even going to start to try to pronounce their names. So, Nine, why don't you go ahead and read down from top to bottom?
Oh god. Well, okay. So top is Rusu. That's the easy one. We got Shikashi there at the bottom. Shikashi God. I believe that's. I don't know the one in the middle. That's not on their normal roster, so it might just be a different name. And actually, the one in the middle, Muyu, or the second one there, is also not Muiyu. Rather, I don't think is on the roster anyway. At least not the Ronaji versions of the roster. So unfortunately, those two middle names are not names that I'm familiar with. Maybe just different names
Well,
from what they're used to using.
one of them we know is
Is Ku?
Ku, right?
Yeah, but neither one of those names say Ku, so that's the
Okay, well,
confusing thing. But yes, we do know for a
we'll
fact
figure
that
it out.
Ku is in the building. So
We'll figure it out. This should be a lot of fun. I have no idea if it's going to be Splat Zones only. I have no idea if it's going to be all modes, but we'll see. It looks like we're starting out on Splat Zones the Reef, and already see the dualies coming out. This is something we talked a little bit about before we booted things up. But and camo tents on either side, despite the nerf.
all right, yeah, this is I think the thing I want to see most today from this scrim is what does tent look like in the actual game? Because you can talk on paper all you want about some of these. Does it still work in the game? That's what matters most.
Yeah, so it should definitely be interesting to see, and looks like we already saw that duel kind of at the beginning. Looks like actually we do see Pixio Monster taking a commanding presence overall on the zone, and I think
All right,
Tera
well, it
was
sounds
forced to back away.
Yeah, Tera was forced to back away, and that gave up Bridge, and we definitely know which one of them Ku is. The dualies are back out in force too, and you see right here they're also going to be using another weapon that got a pretty significant buff, the Foil Flingza. That's been a weapon that people have been tooting the horn of for a while, but you never really got to see it in super high level play. But you can see right here, Zero's not able to do much of anything against it, and that thing builds up missiles, arguably the fastest of any major meta weapon in the game right now.
Double wipe. It's now or never already for this side of Dream. They are forced in their own base. They cannot move. There is nowhere else to go because there's always someone of Pixie Monster looking to try to let that not happen. We do see a handful of specials coming out now as Power gets the bomb rush onto the zone, and that's going to be enough to neutralize it for the time being. It'll allow them a little bit more ink to push forward. Will Kyo be able to do this duel on zone? It looks like they will with a little bit of help of Tera, and that will be the cap, extending the game. It's not a 100-0 knockout. There we go.
It wasn't. There at the very end, they pivoted a couple people over to the right, realizing that they just weren't going to be able to get past the threat of the Tentabrella and Ku. You see, they immediately lose it back, but I think right now, I've always heard so often that the Japanese teams are so much stronger at the lockout phase, and I think you saw it right there. Although, to be fair, it wasn't a firm grip on the zone. I believe it was, what, two up left at the very end there? It was Kyo and one other that were still alive and on zone, so not quite as firm a hold, but right now, they're really relying on Power's bomb rushes here. It doesn't seem like they've been able to really create an opening outside of a couple specials.
Yeah, definitely agree. They're looking to try to do a little bit of that now without any specials. Ku is kind of overextended here and is in a 3v1. Will get a trade, which is actually an impressive play in that little scenario. That'll be a 2-down situation, though, for Dream, and that's probably going to be Control, especially as Zero goes down now. Control heading back over to this side of Pixio Monster, and again, they're just going to push forward and keep this strong lockout phase, and it's now or never for Dream, but they don't have all members up. Now they do, starting to come back in here. We do see that Tenebrella causing a nuisance on the top, but they're trying to approach from this right side, or at least Dream is. Ko's going to splash down on the zones. That is going to be enough to cap. Enforcing that penalty yet again. It seems like this team side of Dream is holding on by a thread ever so slightly. And perhaps even the side of Pixio Monster is letting them take the zone. I noticed this is something else that I kind of been looking at more and more, is even if you let the other team take the zone cap and you don't go down personally, you can then look to try to make the plays to get rid of your opponents and then cap the zone again, even if it means giving up the cap.
Oh, absolutely. If you give it up, but then you end up controlling it for another 60 seconds, you're almost always going to end up on the positive side of that, too. And really, that's what you want, is just a firm, true control. And as we see right there, that's a triple. That's a quad! That is a quad for the foil flingza there. Rusu, please.
Calm down. Just calm down.
Way too early. I guess it's not too early in
It's
Japan.
not too early over there. Yeah.
No. The ability, I think that was a very different comp than what I was expecting to see, because we had talked a little bit before about Zero maybe going on custom dually squelchers and trying to run a more space heavy comp. But that time it seemed like they were the ones getting spaced out. Every time they lost the zone, it was really just because, I mean, frankly, Power and Kyo just charged the zone with specials at the end, and they snuck through a couple times, but you got the sense that they never really had great control. And honestly, the tent looked like it was doing tent things. That didn't look too different. If you told me that from a placebo effect there was no patch, I might believe you based on that game.
Yeah, I mean, the tent kind of did its job as per normal, business as usual, just cleaning up shop here. It was enough of a nuisance to draw a handful of the members of Dream away as well. And it also felt like Tera couldn't do much of anything, because the Tent Umbrella is one of those weapons that is going to need to get set up a little bit. So maybe Tera on the losing end of that is feeling the nerfs slightly more. But I think no matter what, once the Tent Umbrella sets up, it's going to be a good spacing and zoning sort of a thing, and especially something you can play around if you're looking to try to push away your opponent or even get back into the objective.
I agree. I mean, like you were saying there, it does have to get set up, and let's be honest here, really from the start of the game, Tera was never really able to get into the positions that the weapon is strong, so, it's hard to look at that game specifically and say exactly what we saw, because on one side you saw a Tent Umbrella that was constantly trying to break back in, versus a Tent Umbrella that was sharking under plat with Ku next to them. So, I mean, different strokes for different folks, but we do have a more open map now, and now is where I think if we're going to see the more space-heavy comp that Dream was talking about running, this might be the one that we get to see it on. It looks like we're going to see the same look here from Pixio Monster, and we do have Kyo going over to the dually squelcher, so I was incorrect. I was under the impression it was going to be Zero, but it looks like they're going to opt to switch Kyo back over there. Maybe the machine's done for the day.
Maybe. I mean, it's not outside the realm of possibility to see it come back later. I mean, it was only one map after all. But it does look like we're starting to see a couple of trades on either side benefiting both teams. It's now a 2v2, and it looks like actually Dream's getting the upper hand here early in that opening engagement. They'll cap the zones here, but it will be very short-lived before Pixio Monster can come back in. The Inkstorm does get popped to try to add a little bit more green ink on the map, as now Kyo is starting to do Kyo things. Started to get up in people's faces even with that longer range, but is now trying to use that to his advantage and is going to pick one off. Maintaining control of Dream Zone right now for the time being is probably what they want to do, although all the meantime this Tent Umbrella is pushing Power back significantly far. You got to imagine that would have been a nightmare for Power to deal with if he wasn't on something more mobile such as the Bamboozler.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring up the Bamboo. That whole opening was really created by Power's mobility and being able to move up. I think he actually got 3 picks in the opening seconds of that game. And this is really the weapon that I think people are going to have to look at if they want to keep ahead of the meta and what's going on here. You saw the only way that they were able to get rid and remove Power from the zone situation and allow them to move in was to send the Tent Umbrella after him, and that's not something that you can reliably set up. So I think Power, not just on this map, but in general with this Bamboo, is going to be something to look out for. To be fair, a lot of people would say this is Bamboo's best map, but I think we're probably going to see that a lot more than just here.
I think the other thing to kind of remember here is there also isn't something to match that Bamboo on the other side in terms of range. For this side of Pixio Monster, they're running without a backline yet again, which isn't necessarily the most surprising thing in the world, but I suppose is something to just kind of bear in the back of our heads here, right? They're not going to have that ink output perhaps from afar as they might like, and they're going to rely a lot more on trying to get back into the zone. Of course, though, with that Tent Umbrella going down, that's going to be a little bit harder to do. It looks like to go down on the side of Dream yet again now. Both these teams kind of going trade for trade, and we've seen a pretty low-scoring game so far. I wonder if that has anything to do with maybe the map favoring this Dream cop a little bit more?
I think it's the map too, and I think again it's just the good opening that you saw them get at the start to get the lead. And I do feel like Pixio Monster is playing maybe just a little bit. I don't want to say. I guess risky is a good way to put it here. It seems like they're trying for a lot of solo plays, maybe not being entirely aware of where Dream is. And Dream's moving really well, and it's easy to move well around the map when you do have the ability to space. They do have 2 down right now, or I'm sorry, 1 down rather, and they're going to be able to push Tera back into a really awkward position. So I think okay, they do take down Tera. Tera did a great job of distracting 3 people, so they didn't actually lose the zone there. And now Zero's going to be able to come in and get a double there. And I think, again, the Tera surviving that long is what opened this entire thing up. So I think with a more wide open map here, with more isolated plays, I think it's been a lot better for Dreams, simply because they're able to distract and take that much more effort away from the enemy. Kyo, no. Kyo fell off the map on the bottom.
That's gotta love pulling a classic Tudos. Will never fail, even in the highest level of scrims 4 years later. But nonetheless, game is still actually starting to side Dream a little bit more if you look at the scoreboard here. They were able to hold on to the zone for a decent while you were talking there, 9, but it looks like they're going to go 3 down now in this case, and this is going to be something a little bit scary now, because now Pixio Monster have a commanding presence. Are they going to be able to go for the same lockout situation that we saw them go for on the last map? Zero's going to try to come in, but it is going to go down in the process, trying to make a solo play. And here comes Tera with the Tenderella, but it's immediately going to be collapsed around by 3 other members of Pixio Monster. Impressive work from them to make sure that Tera goes down in that case. The lockout still continues now, and it's probably going to take another engagement, although it looks like Dream for right now is trying to play a little bit more passively, try to charge their specials a little bit more, although in the meantime, though, it looks like Ku was able to go down and Power was able to cap the zone in that instance, and now they're just collapsing around the rest of these members of Pixie Monster, and it looks like Control will be heading back to the side of Dream.
Yeah, great work there. Actually, very, very fortunate there that Ku's baller didn't come out in time. The missiles are actually what took down Ku while Ku was trying to get in baller. It looked like it was about 3/4 of the way inside of it, so that was big there. And again, it was Chikashi in the tent that was able to get a double there and maintain control for them. So often Tenebrellas on this map, they're either the big distraction that is taking your focus away, or they're wrecking your plans entirely. But now they only have 12 seconds left. I love the fact that Zero jumped in with Tera. They should be able to collapse on this back zone, and they have actually neutralized it. Ku is forced to rotate back. Can they get some paint on it?
No.
And a last-second overtime lead going back the other way. That was very, very close there. It was almost like they were forced a little bit too far back to take the zone there. But a better showing, I would say.
Certainly a better showing from Dream. I mean, they were in commanding presence for the majority of that game, if we're being realistic. And it only came down to the later parts of that game where Pixie Monster was finally able to set up in the exact position that they would have liked, that they were fully able to capitalize on some of the mistakes that Dream might have made in that instance. I think there were a handful of times where players from either team, really, started to treat things a little bit more as solo plays, as you mentioned, partway through that. And so I guess that's something else to look out for, right, is looking at how this team coordination is going to come together. It is worth noting, of course, this roster of Dream doesn't necessarily play together on the daily or something like that. They're all strong in their own right, don't get me wrong, but it's not like they're always playing together. They're not necessarily like a compact, coordinated team. And of course, I mean, when people originally said Pixio Monster, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, probably going to be a pretty coordinated team because they play together a little bit. But with at least the addition of Ku and maybe one other, because we don't really know and neither one of us can read Japanese, that's probably about even in terms of like the amount of time that these teams play together. But that could be something else to watch out for now. So we had in game 3. Looks like it's going to be splat zones only. But yeah, what do you think here?
Not too big a deal there. And we do see now the Tenterbrella come out. Or I'm sorry, not the Tenterbrella. The Tri-Slosher. I'm sorry, I'm getting my T's mixed up here. We talked about maybe seeing it. We weren't entirely sure what it looked like or what it was going to look like here. And we have Power's E-Leader on the other side. He actually tweeted out, I think it was this morning, might hit some big boy shots with the E-Leader because, again, if you all are unfamiliar, there was a slight paint range reduction, or width reduction, rather, for the scope here. But I don't know. This is a map again where people love to trade flanks here, and the Tensabrellas I think are going to have kind of a more honest game with them here. You're not going to see too many flanks, I don't think, on either side as you would if it was a normal Brella. But yeah, we're going to see Chikashi going up and continuing to push people back, and it's the Sorella as well, so he's going to be especially annoying if they can't clean him up. Oh, he got 0 with a curling bomb. Yeah, there it is. I mean, but see, that's such a big deal here. That Tenta was dead to rights. To be able to take somebody with them here, they're going to be able to jump back in and continue to play the same general game. It's just slowed everything down and put another wrench in. I love this double rain, but again, there's somebody back there. It is the tent who's going to be able to paint it up here. That's another 2 down. I think this one may be done, K-Bot.
The lockout continues. Looks like Power's having a difficult time trying to get up here in proper positioning, and hard to do that when you don't have the paint support of the rest of the team. Is now just going to be completely pushed back as the rest of the members of Dream do go down. Yeah, you're probably right. This was going to be over. Zero going to try to make a hero play, but it's not going to be enough to get back into that zone. This 3-down situation. A host DC question mark? I don't really know what happened there, but yeah, that was not necessarily a pretty one to watch.
Brutal.
I guess I just
that's one of those
DC'd
games where you have a really hard time identifying exactly what went wrong or what changed where to make that happen. But again, that opening scuffle, it seemed to go both ways. Power was actually able to get set up early on, and it seemed like Dream might have had an opportunity, but there's just moments here where one gets taken down in a situation that they shouldn't, or so often we talk about the flow of the game where you can kind of predict who's going to take the zone, when a swap is going to occur, unless somebody makes an incredible individual play that they probably shouldn't be able to. And I felt like that was just the entire game there at the start. It seemed like maybe one pick that they probably shouldn't have gotten, they were able to get, and they were able to push them back there. And then it just started a nice rotational attack. Everyone understood where they needed to be. They hid just behind, and you keep popping out, K-Bot. How are you holding up?
Apparently not well. I'm going to try to plug in to see if... I mean, it requires running a quite a decent ways, but I'm going to try to plug in to see exactly if I can get a little bit more of a consistent connection. It's not going to be any faster, but yeah. So I'm going to AFK real quick. If you want to talk about whatever, or we can cut this out later. I don't know that I have a strong preference. I'll write down the time.
I mean, I'm here anyway, so I'll just radio commentary this one.
Okay, that's fine.
We got splat zones on Sturgeon Shipyard now. Nice sip of my water. So I will say, with the exception of the Piranha Pit game, it does seem like the faster comp, I would go ahead and say, is winning out against the more space-heavy comp that we have seen Dream run. So I'm curious to see if Dream's going to try to respond to that with anything quicker. Let's take a look. All right, so on the side of Pixio Monster, they're going with a exact same comp they went last game. They're going Foil Flings, End Zap, Tri-Slash Niveau, and the Sorella tent once again. On the other side, it is the vanilla tent coming out from Tera. Bamboo MK3, Zero switching over to the T-Tech, and it is actually going to be KO once again, staying on the custom dually Squelchers. It's actually a full wipe at the very beginning from Dream here, so they got what they wanted. Tera actually got a really nice pick at the very start of the game here and was able to push up from there. They were able to zone them out, and now they get the opportunity to do their own lockout scenario. They have pushed all the way back up in plat. 3 people focusing on Chikashi's tent, and Chikashi was able to get a pick out of that somehow. Some big missiles coming through. That's going to be 2 down already. Tera went down. There's not going to be anybody on the left side of zone. They immediately respond and take that zone almost for free. And again, it just seems like one goes down a little bit earlier than they need to. That starts the chain reaction. Now, that time Zero was able to get a pick, and is able to get a double on Ku, so that should give them the opportunity to come in as well. Zero gets a triple, almost a quad, but Kyo is going to clean that up for the full wipe. And a very, very nice take back this time by Dream. They have not had really a nice take back like that, I think, this entire time. Are we back, K-Bot?
I am working on it. I'm going to switch over my...
Missiles are going to go ahead and take... Sure. Missiles are going to go ahead and take Kyo down there. Pretty unfortunate. And Power's going to get forced back really hard. He is able to get the bubbles out. Is actually able to get Ku off of a bubble. So Zero jumped back in the middle of that scuffle as well. And that means they're going to be able to jump everyone else back in. So credit Power there, being able to get a pick off of the bubble. That's not something that I was expecting to see there. I think Ku just got a little bit too aggressive, thought that he could sneak through it in time, but Power was not willing to let that happen. And actually, K-Bot, this has been a much, much better game for Dream. They're in the lead, 50 left on the timer. They are counting it down right now, and they've pushed up far. Tera goes down very early into that push, but Zero's able to come in and get a punish there as well. 2 down. The question right now is Tera going to be able to jump in before this counter push is made? And he is. Great work. He gets back in, gets the one shot there. 19 seconds left on the clock. They're going to have to make one more push here. As long as they identify where the big threat is coming from, they're going to be A-okay. With just 6 seconds left on the clock, everyone is running in 2-1, and that will be a victory for Dream. So credit them not letting the last game get them down. They have pushed back in, and great work. I think Powers, MK3, Bamboozler, and Tera, that was the finest game Tera's played all day for sure.
So, of course, you're telling me that we miss a good one? It's basically like... I mean, to be fair, you could have made up whatever you wanted to in the past 5 minutes, and it could have hypothetically been true. Hopefully, knock on wood, that's not going to happen again. I just ran a wire that pretty much goes the entire 25 feet that the wire has. So,
is
we'll
this
see.
you that's in the lobby right now?
No. I was about to say.
Somebody else jumped into the lobby.
Interesting. Well. Gonna have to track him down and ask them to kindly please leave. I'm trying to make content over here.
Dot. I don't know. I don't know who
Classic.
it is. I know that they do have. I know that Pixio Monster does have a coach, so I don't suppose it's them.
I don't really know. We'll have to see.
Yeah, we will have to see. But to talk about that last game again, like I said, I think that was the finest game that Tera has had. And that game, I think, maybe it's because Sturgeon Shipyard is a little bit bigger. A lot of times in these games, we've seen Tera push forward, do what the Tenterbrella does, be a very attack-heavy, quick respawn type of Tenterbrella, get taken down early, and then not be able to come back in and really make a relevant effect on the play. That time, every time Tera went up and went down, Tera was able to jump back into a beacon and was able to reassist the team when the push started to come at them there. So I think establishing that flow really helped them there. That was definitely his best game. Zero had some really great picks. Power, of course, had the nice defense that I talked about with the bubble against Ku. But now they're moving on to Moray here. So what is Power going to do? Will he be able to put the E-leader down? He is not able to put the E-leader down. We have the E-leader of Power back on Moray Towers. You talk about things that were relevant 5 years ago with the Tudos meme. Now we have this. Zero's going end zap as well, and Kyo is going to be back on the machine. Meanwhile, on the other end, Ku is going to go ahead and stick with the Tri Nouveau and gets taken down very, very early. Chikashi has brought out the Charger as well, and it does look like we have a Splash Neo too. So Power, I think, got a really nice pick there actually on Chikashi. The added range made up for that. So right now, Zero's in the middle, painting over what Ku is doing right now. Tera has pushed up onto their snipe and gets a nice pick. That's going to be a full wipe for Dream. And they are going to start this now. Tera is pushed up as well. Power's going to try to push up here. And this is the real question for Power. Is Power going to be able to contribute here, pushed up with this E-leader? It looks like he's slowly but surely moving his way up there around what Tera is trying to do. Kyo is pushed back, trying to defend here. And looking on the other side, they're trying to build up the specials and push in that way. It doesn't look like they want to dive down. I don't think that they've done a great job of being able to track where the members of Dream are. So credit Dream for being very, very mobile as they shark around.
But I mean, that said, I'm watching on Power Stream now. So far, looks like Dream still had a commanding presence of the zone. Power looks like it's going to be forced to back away for the time being. But Pixio Monster, I suppose, like, they still haven't found their way to get in. We do see One of the members going over to Firefin. I believe that's a scoped variant. I'm trying to watch on low quality so it doesn't disturb anything else. But now there looks like Pixio Monster is finally going to be able to come back in here. They're going to get control of the zones. Will they be able to go for the lockout phase that we've seen them go for quite a bit? Power looks like is going to win the 1v1 trade. Gets a double now, looking for more. Not going to be able to find it for the time being, but at the very least, that should allow this window of opportunity now for Dream to come back in and capitalize.
Yeah, great work right there. I think Kyo actually moved up there and got a really nice pick. This is a very, very good game from here. I was a little worried that we wouldn't see the machine at all. And, you know, this map, it's kind of interesting to see machine on there, but he's been making it work so far. And now Power's pushed up in a really nice position here. That's probably the spot that he wants to be because that's going to make sure that nobody can get in for free from Overlook. You saw that he had to back up there in the face of a special, but that's going to give Zero enough room to move in. He's going to take advantage of that. Zero might be able to get 3 or 4 right here. He was able to get 2, but that's going to be enough for them to at least force them back. Power hits another shot, and right now, Ku's just going to try to get the zone, and Power got Ku as well. So all the advantage they had created for themselves shut down immediately by Power's impressive E-leader play right there. I mean, that was a situation where I thought for sure they were going to be able to not only get the zone, but maybe even a bit of a lockout situation. Credit Power for knowing exactly how far to back up there. And now they are going to be able to get the zone. It looks like they forced them forward into a very up-close and personal tap shot war with the Chargers. But I think that maybe a little bit of over-pursuit here from Dream. It doesn't look like Tera is going to be able to get a real punish on there. And now they've been able to come back in. Kyo here as well. I got to say, though, this is, again, a much better game. It seems like the more wide-open maps have really, really favored what Dream is trying to do.
I mean, I definitely agree because, then you consider that there are, this composition of Pixio Monster, as we've kind of thought about a little bit here, is it seems to be they're treating the lockout phase extremely well. So anytime that there's one of those more open maps where there's multiple ways to approach the zone, there's multiple ways to get ink onto the zone, that lockout phase is going to be that considerably more difficult if you're trying to go for that sort of approach to the game. Whereas, a side of Dream with maybe something that has a little bit more flexibility in both phases is going to certainly be able to benefit from a more wide open map. Not gonna lie, I had another comment and then I completely lost it.
No, that's fine. A lot has changed. But one thing that I do want to bring up is we're in maybe a little bit more of a situation right now. Pixio Monster has not run armor at all this entire set.
That's fair.
I mean, I think maybe game 1 they ran NZAP.
Yeah.
Or I guess maybe game 2 where they ran NZAP too, but they aren't running it here. And it doesn't seem like that's been a big part of their game plan, as Ku just got a wicked double on the backside of Tera's shield to open that up for them as well. But it's kind of interesting to note here, and I don't think there's been a ton of armor on the other side either. So some armorless comps that they're trying to expand and play around. And now, as we've been praising the way that Dream has been playing so much, this is starting to get very ugly here. Kyo's off in a position where he's not really going to be able to contribute here, and he's actually the only one who could contribute in that situation because Zero went down a little bit earlier. Tera's going to try to desperately charge, but he's targeted by missiles. They have lost the lead here, and that is going to be a last-second stealing victory from the jaws of defeats that time.
Yet again, that's the second time we've seen that.
Yeah, it is. And again, it almost always seems to happen where there's just a very neutral, sharp line of play, and then one opening changes it all. And that time, it was the double, I think, that Ku got with a bomb on the backside of Tera's Tentarella shield that really opened that up and pushed them all the way back. So, it's interesting to note that it does seem to be the small things that create big openings. These teams have gotten so good at the lockout phase of the game that if you leave it open, there's not really a ton that you can do. The going down in neutral really, really changes the dynamic of the game, especially if it's 2 in such a quick amount of time.
Yeah. Going with that, like these last second takebacks or these, final pushes that are ending, those, of course, are after that lockout phase that comes through. In a lot of cases, in Splatoon, it only takes one push to go extremely in your favor in order for everything to work out for you, right? And I think that's kind of what Pixio Monster is trying to capitalize on here, right? If we get that one good push, where if we get everything set up, where we get our cards in play, in order to go for that lockout phase, they are probably going to be the ones to come out on top. If they can hold it for 60, 70 seconds, that's enough to KO in a lot of cases. So I think that tends to be what they're going for. I think perhaps the side of Dream is starting to wake up a little bit. It is in the morning. I mean, I know personally this is probably the earliest I've woken up in quite some time, given the state of the world right now. So maybe some of these players on Dream are starting to wake up as well as we get into this next one. On Goby Arena, double foil?
Foil, okay, double foil, the new light brush, and a tent.
The disclaimer here, of course, is that this is a scrim, so you're probably not going to see this sort of a stuff in tournament, but, oh boy, what's the goal here?
I have to think that the goal here is heavy missiles and being able to pressure people all the way back. I don't know if you've seen that new foil vertical flick radius. That thing is wicked here, and I think the idea is that if they continue to have some pressure on zone there, which you'll always have some sort of presence, you're going to be able to have a constant stream of missiles to force people back. And I guess as long as you keep the zone, keep missiles to identify where they're coming, and then Ku on the brush is able to play around what the Brella's doing here, ideally you should be able to isolate and pick people out like that, but then I'm not entirely sure how you break back in. So if they lose control, this could get really, really ugly.
Yeah, we're definitely going to, I mean, if they lose control, they're probably going to have to play primarily around that Tenebrella, right, to get back into the zone. Hide, like, Trojan horse behind the Tenebrella canopy, I suppose, as it moves forward into the zone. But it looks like right now, that's not going to matter much as we start to see Pixio Monster aggress significantly far forward, and Ku on this brush, or we believe that's Ku anyway, is putting in an impressive amount of work to flank behind. You see it yet again coming in. Flank behind is probably going to be called out here soon. Someone's going to have to turn their attention from Dream to take care of Ku, and that's going to force their attention away from the zone, allowing whatever it is to happen there to happen more to the favor of Pixio Monster.
I was going to say, you said it needs to be called out soon, and I was thinking, yeah, it really does need to be, but they had no idea by the time that Ku had gotten there. I would thought that they were going to jump somebody to Ku and try to go with a 2v2 attack like that, but Ku, I guess, could get the job done alone. And now Tera with a great pick right there. And, as I'm watching these foil flings as more here, the distance that thing has when it is pushed up just below the plat area and how far that vertical flick goes back, it reminds me of a rapid blaster almost, with the effective range that it has there. And to top the paint on top of that too, it almost seems like you're being attacked even on your own plat, and with all the missiles too, there's really no time to rest. So I don't know that I would ever recommend this, but you start to see the wisdom as the game goes on. He's been able to keep the zone against two people trying to paint it for about 10 seconds right there.
Yeah, and anytime you can do that, stalling out for seconds in some cases, those seconds could be pretty valuable if this game starts to be a little bit more closer. Especially as we start to go there towards the end. That'll be less seconds that perhaps you need to make up later if you are the side of Pixio Monster that's been primarily prioritizing that late push in order to seal a deal. But it looks like right now none of the Pixio members are going down as we start to see Dream, or I was thinking they were going to push forward, but it looks like that's not going to be the case. Instead, it's going to be a little bit of push forward and control the zone going over to the side of Pixio Monster. This Tenebrella is starting to push forward, harass power here a little bit more. And it's now just going for the complete and utter flank option. That duel on the other side is going to go down, but all the meanwhile, again, those are seconds that cause this side of Dream to focus on something that wasn't the zone.
God, I'm taking a clip of that right there. I just want people to realize exactly how much pressure that weapon is able to put on the plat area. I know that right there we saw a great understanding of the time left on the clock for Dream to be able to take that zone, and winning that 1v1 is going to give him even more control of the zone. But this is a weapon that I think people need to seriously look at after this patch. I thought it was a little bit underrated before this patch, but now I think that it's a legitimate weapon that you can play at any level.
So here's the interesting thing, though. We compliment that Tenebrella's play, but it still didn't stall for that second longer in order for this side of Pixio Monster to take the lead. There is still plenty of time left in the game. If we've seen anything, this still could go either direction. It looks like for the time being, though, Q actually going to go for the hero play jump, going in from the flank. I assume there was a beacon back there or something, but still just going to kind of chill there for the time being. Again, Kyo is being distracted right now. Can't apply pressure to the zone, but none of the members of Pixie Monster are able to capitalize on that for the time being. The double Ink Storm is pushing them back even further, and it looks like the lead's going to be extended here for Dream. Can they hold on to it with 22 seconds left to go?
Yeah, this is really kind of some Hail Mary bubbles here. And actually, Zero, I think, Shark just a little bit too long, was not willing to go in and try to make an attack, but somebody else was up there, too. They were able to take Tera out there very quickly. Kyo is the last one, and he's going to probably back all the way up. Yeah, he's just going to get from a distance that he can still throw missiles, or I'm sorry, his bomb at, and actually was able to get one down there. That could be the play that really opens up the game here. Him able to get that one is going to mean that they're going to get a 2v1 in the zone. And I think he got two people with one splashdown. That never happens. He never gets one.
I'm just a properly timed splashdown. I guess I'm going to have to personally go back and see exactly if he was just able to capitalize on that, if he got like a lucky timing on gaining the splashdown, or if he had it for a little bit of time. But that's going to seal the deal there. And Pixio Monster not able to go for that lockout situation that we have seen them go for. Instead, of course, they tried to stall for seconds, but at the end of the day, those seconds didn't quite add up to enough to grant them the game.
Yeah, and I think right there at the very end, I think that game would have been a lost game had Kyo not gotten. He got at the very beginning of that. He was the last one up there, as we mentioned, as that timer was ticking down, that penalty was ticking down. I'm not sure which of the foil flings it was. I didn't quite catch the name, but one of the foil flings was pushed up on him and tried to bully him from range. But Kyo actually was able to go up and get that pick outright instead of a trade. If Kyo doesn't get that, the entire dynamic of the game is shifted there. If he goes down, of course, the game's probably done. But even if he trades there, that's going to be 3v3 in zone. And of course, we don't see that big splashdown at the end. So credit him able to hold his position, knowing exactly how far he can attack with the range of that weapon. I swear, Kyo somehow has a bigger hitbox on his machine than anybody else. So I don't know how
he's just that good at aiming.
Him and Nike have the strongest splashing machine hitboxes of anyone that I've ever seen.
The other thing that I will say about the last comment you made was Kyo not going down there was definitely to Dream's benefit. But you also have to remember, right, all of the times that Pixio Monster set someone around to flank from the backside, if those ended in trades, those could have also benefited Pixio Monster at any point throughout that match. And a lot of times, even when those flanks happened, it was like a 2 versus 1 situation where that member of Pixie Monster couldn't quite defend themselves. Enough about that last game, though. We are going to be heading into this next one on... Crap, let's see if I remember the name. Snapper Canal. Holy smokes. I have not had any caffeine this morning.
I was going to say, I'm about to go for cup 2 myself.
We are going to be seeing here a little bit more back and forth for the time being. Pixie Monster with perhaps the slight lead, but of course that's not going to amount to anything right now. It's all going to be about who can set up their control firmly first, and it looks like it's nearly going to be Dream, despite the fact that they still don't have control of the zone.
Yeah, again, the foil flings are just doing a great job of at least neutralizing the zone and making sure that they couldn't get too many points off of that. They are able to get a little bit of control. I don't know how in the world that Tenterbrella got behind them there, but that's going to open up a lot for them. Credit Zero there for using great technique and staying alive in that situation too. And actually staying alive once again and holding that position to allow Kyo to come and get another. Once again, it's Chikashi's foil flings are the only reason that they have any semblance of control right now. Able to get 2 there, and he's going to force the rest back with the missiles to give themselves a little more space to work with. But my goodness here, this is a slobber knocker back and forth. I think this is probably the most knockdown, dragged out of all the matches that we've seen so far.
You wouldn't expect a Flingzo roller to be a painting weapon, but apparently it is.
Oh, yes. It is so good at it. It really functions. It reminds me a lot of an old Splat 1 Dynamo, except for it doesn't fall from the sky and kill you before it lands.
Right. So luckily, not going to have to deal with that. It looks like we do see control going back over the Dream, and that is going to be the lead as well. But now we're starting to see this come together yet again. I would almost like to see this flank option happen again, but Power looks to be pretty set up. And as a matter of fact, that's what caused that Tenterbrella to get behind, as you mentioned earlier, was kind of a 1v1 duel between Tenterbrella and Bamboo. And I don't know about you, but the Tenterbrella probably wins that in most cases.
Yeah, it's one of the few weapons that pushes that weapon back and forces it to be honest.
Right. Nonetheless, looks like Pixio Monster was able to take control of zone, but there's only 2 of them in zone for the time being and starting to get grouped around now. This foil flings is the last one up on zone for Pixie Monster. That's going to be control going yet again over to Dream. Can they maintain this lockout situation that we have seen benefit Pixie Monster primarily, but right now it's Dream on the forefront, looking to try to find these picks away from the zone. Looks like we do see that flank coming in yet again from that Tenebrella. I want to draw attention to that, and now Kyo's going to come over to join it as well. Both of these players are just going to have a... How is this not... Okay, there we go. Finally, the Tenebrella goes down, but on the meanwhile, that was the cap, going back to the side of Pixie Monster, opting for that distraction tactic yet again.
It was, and they actually had 2 people down there. I'm not entirely sure how the zone went the other way there in the middle of that, but I mean... Can we have a power cam here? I don't think Power has left this spot of the map for the last 3 minutes of gameplay. He has been shutting pretty much everything down here, almost forcing everybody over to the middle. And the other 3 members are just rotating around. We finally see a flank going around the other side this time, but it looks like they had just enough people coming out of spawn to be able to slow that one down here. And even though they again lose the zone, they're going to keep control of the map as a whole. See Zero and Tera going to take that right there. And it seems like they just haven't quite been able to get a full lockout situation. You see, again, one goes down, and Ku actually running straight forward might be what opens them up right there. But it just seems like, once again, it's just been trades back and forth.
And, you know, the lockdown situation is harder to do on perhaps this map, which is a little bit more open, you might consider it to be. And a lot of the places where you're going to be looking for those engagements when you're going on flanks and things like that, you have plenty of room to move, right? It's not like you're coming down a narrow corridor where your opponents can easily paint on your feet and knock you out. There's a little bit of room to move, there's a little bit more flexibility, and I think that's what is allowing a little bit of this to go either way. But for the time being, we see Pixio Monster now looking for a little bit more of that knockout, lockout situation. Some of these members of Dream are starting to move forward. We do see the paint coming in onto zone, but it's not going to be enough to cap it for the time being. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Not quite done yet. They can't quite find the cap. Okay, there we go. There. Hold your breath there for a moment because you don't want to make a commentator's curse on anything and then you look like a fool. Nonetheless, looks like 2 go down now on the side of Pixie Monster. This could be Dream's opportunity. That's actually the full wipe. So now they're going to be able to get set up. Can they win the next fight in order to keep their hopes alive here in this game?
I'm going to take a look here on the right side where Power's pushed up at, because this is, I think, what's really going to matter right here. They got to keep somebody back there to try to paint over, and Tera actually went down to a bomb there, to the bomb rush. I think got stuck in between that new slower tent canopy launcher. That's what, again, caused what we thought was going to be a pretty interesting overtime period to end a little bit prematurely there. But I think that Power on the left side of that map was really the stabilizing force for them there. I know it's only 9 that you can see right there with Zero and Kyo pacing the field in terms of the KA. But again, I think forcing them one direction and not giving them the opportunity to fight and create those openings by going for those flanks and really playing around with their space is what made that game go so well for them. And again, it's just 1 or 2 openings right there. They got a couple down. Power got forced back. That allowed them to continue to create the actual knockout situation and full-on grip of the map. Because you know that they had double armor. You know that they were going to have enough paint output to keep up with whatever stray paint was getting to the zone. It just took one real opening for them to run with it. And as we were so used to seeing from these high-level players, they did.
They certainly did.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, do we have to seriously talk about this game?
I'm going to take a 5-minute coffee break.
All right.
Really, though, I do need to refill my coffee here. I'll be right back.
That's fine. I'll try to, semi-seriously talk about this one. The reason I say we shouldn't have to talk about this one very seriously is because it's Port Mackerel. I mean, this is probably... In the past, this obviously has been the most Stingray-heavy map. It's one of those more flat maps in general where, it's just not... In a lot of cases, this is one of the more hated maps in Splatoon history. I mean, of course, we did see Moray Towers, and I suppose that provided a little bit of an insight. Well, I suppose you guys didn't see it. I might add in, someone else's gameplay over that period of time where Nine was giving some insights. But nonetheless, this should be interesting to watch. I'm going to take a sip of water as we head into this one. Will we see a Stingray? Ooh, the 52 gal, actually, coming out for, I believe that was, that's Cube, I believe, playing the 52 gal. So that's going to be impressive to watch.
You're going to use it anyway. Right. This is the place.
Yeah.
He went down immediately to kill.
That's pretty unfortunate. But, I mean, So the Tenebrella is obviously going to be able to control a lot of the corridors here. I honestly don't want to give a lot of time of day to this match. Like I'm not feeling Port Mackerel right now. I don't know what it is.
Is anyone feeling Port Mackerel ever?
I mean, yeah.
I'm not sure I've heard anyone say that they were ever feeling Port Mackerel, but if there is one thing that we can kind of look at here that's kind of fun, we do see Bamboos battling it out here on both sides. And very interesting to note is that Chikashi is using the Bamboo MK2, which we do not see very often. That thing's got Burst Bomb Rush, so if you want to know why we don't see it super often, that's part of the reason. And Power on the other side is going with the MK1, the more traditional pick. That's probably a little bit better in most situations, at least just from a strictly kit standpoint. Of course, we know the main weapon, very powerful in this day and age. Now we see, I've almost missed that sound of the Stingray. Almost.
Have you?
Almost.
Almost. Yeah, I don't know if you can fully
It sounds a little better when a
miss that.
backliner's not using it.
I suppose that's fair. That is valid. So that is something, that is perhaps another thing to talk about. That has kind of like completely fallen off in lately in the meta. You don't see Stingrays like pretty much ever. You might see them in a handful of cases in tower control, but otherwise, like, you really don't see that a lot here. And I imagine, of course, that's not what the 52 gal in this specific composition is designed to do. It's not supposed to be a Stingray farm. But perhaps it is worth it. But you have it, right.
You have it on its strongest map in the game.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it boils down to here. And Ku, I don't even know how Ku was able to take that hammer down so cleanly there in the middle, but Ku got a crazy double there that's really probably going to wind this game down here. That was really the last super big opportunity. They're going to get one more chance to come in. And actually, Tera DC's there at the end to just add, insult to injury there at the very end of the game. But yeah, we don't see a whole lot of Stingray. And I know that for a while, the general thought was, it's a Rainmaker. It's a Rainmaker mode, or it's a Rainmaker special. It's a tower control special, but it was very popular too in splat zones, especially back in the old days where you would see teams opt to send one person at the very start to build Stingray, then use that Stingray to take 2 down. So it would be 3v2 in the zone. They would use that to get a full lockout, and then they would start their lockout phase very early. But I think that these days, partially with the armor, but also partially because, unless you are a very accurate Stingray and you know where the opponent is, I don't know that it's active enough these days. It just seems like what you can do with a Stingray, to use your Stingray, you have to be back from a safe distance. What can Stingray do these days in terms of zoning, chip damage, and forcing people back that missiles can't? A much lower commitment, pushing people out of the way, and then as soon as you fire them, you can attack the opponent before your missiles even land. It just seems like right now it doesn't really have a place with the way that the game has evolved. And certainly the influx of more splat zones events and counter pick events that allow for almost exclusively splat zones has certainly skewed it somewhat, but we'll have to see. We say this until we see one tournament where 15 Stingrays get used in one game,
and then we're all like, all right, what are we actually talking about?
Right. We were talking in the Scrim last night about how, what we're seeing a Stingray in 2020. What is this? This is unusual.
Right. Certainly a little strange and a little odd now. But I think it is kind of an interesting point to reflect on, right? How did we get to the point where we are now, where you don't see that Stingray, or it's completely uncommon to see that Stingray? And as you mentioned, it is perhaps to an extent thanks to those missiles that are able to zone your opponent away just as well. The likelihood that you're going to get a pick on a Stingray versus a pick on 10 missiles, probably about the same in all reality. And with 10 missiles, you can probably attack more than one person, or you have a more likely shot of attacking more than one person, as opposed to with that Stingray. So, I don't know, something else to look out for here as we move forward. We haven't seen a ton of 10 missile spam per se. Of course, it's been useful. We've seen the foil flings come out in full force, but we haven't seen it. I feel like we haven't talked about specials as much in this game as I might be used to talking about them.
Yeah, we haven't talked as much about them because I think we're, at least with the exception of some big bubble plays and wacky splashdown shenanigans, for the most part, we're talking mostly about spacing, rotation, and things like that, because I mean that's the fundamental way that the game is played. You know, if all you do is, I mean, let's look at situations where the specials have really been used here and where they've really mattered. It's either been using them in zone in scrappy situations to try to get a pick or gain some control. It's been armor, which we know what armor does, or it's been building up 3 or 4 specials to try to push back into zone. And I think, with the exception of armor, those other 2 situations aren't super reliable, right? If you use splashdown in zone, a lot of times against good teams, we know how that story ends. You don't hit the ground very often. And whenever you're building 3 or 4 specials back up to come back in, that's a lot of time that's getting melted away. And if you make one misstep, if one person goes down a little early or one special isn't used with proper timing, that can sometimes be the game. And so I think that as we've seen more and more of this game evolve, it's really been about staying alive and preserving some threat towards the opponent at all time that divides their attention. If they know that all 4 of you are building up your specials, that's just not going to work against these top level teams, especially in this current day and age where I think, personally at least, there's so many good main weapons out there that it starts to neutralize a little bit of the effect that some of these specials used to have.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know where Tera is. I think we kind of stalled for like about as long as we have. Okay, there we are. Of course,
Woo!
As I question it, it's gonna show up. So we are gonna be seeing more game. Oh, this is gonna be the one where I have to move the camera. That's unfortunate. I mean, I knew it was coming at some point, but because normally I've just been sitting on overhead. But if you sit on overhead on Splatstone Skip Pavilion, you can't see the zone. So I'm gonna have to do some fancy camera work now, but. That aside, Tenebrella here is probably going to be one of those things that could take a very commanding role of exactly how this plays out.
It could indeed. And actually, thinking back on I guess it's not even recent anymore. It's almost a year ago now. The last World Championships, FT Win had a really difficult time dealing with Yamamichi's Tenebrella on this map in particular. It was Turf War, so of course there's a different dynamic there. But if your Tenebrella is sharp here, you can really divide the map in half and make it very, very difficult for the opponent to group up and mount any real sort of counterattack. But I want to see now what that foil Flingza is able to do, the effective range of it on this map. Because there are some pretty nice spots that you can sit if you're trying to come back in on your own plat, on the lower plat, on the snipe area, on the left side, where you can kind of effectively, if nothing else, pester the zone and keep it neutralized. If foil can hit up there, that entirely changes the dynamic of this map. So I do hope that Kakashi indeed continues to use that here, so I get to see what it's capable of.
We will see exactly how much more that foil Flingza is capable of. We see the double custom dually squelchers coming out of the side of Dream.
People who know me know that I hate playing against this weapon, but it's for good reason. This weapon, man, I think it was Hitzel who at one point described, it was either Hitzel or Prodigy or somebody who described the weapon as just unfair. Like, in theory, that thing is nuts, right? It can outrange most of its counterparts that would play at the similar ranges. And then if it does get pushed up on, you just back up. Like, you have the tools to do what you need in most situations, so it makes a lot of sense. And on a map like this with a lot of narrow space, it's that much stronger. As long as Tera is able to do his end of the bargain, which it looks like he is, and hold that top side, they're going to be able to get rid of any threat that comes their way. Power's going to be mobile enough to deal with anything from there. And look at this. They are punishing them right now.
They really are. As we take a look at the complete overhead here, that middle strip is predominantly green. And of course, you only see a little bit more of a balance because it looks like the side of the Pixio Monsters have been forced to paint in their base a little bit more in order to build up their specials, in order to try to find a way back in right now. But there just is not much of a response here for Tera making so much of a commanding presence. Looks like we do see the specials starting to get popped, and it looks like we do see the Tenebrella coming in from the side for Pixio Monster. That'll be enough to let them be capped for the time being, as those bubbles are still sitting on zone. Those longer duration bubbles now with that latest patch still sitting there. Oh my goodness. Looks like they're finally going to go down, and that's going to be control heading back over to the side of Dream, which again we talked about a little bit earlier, right? They might have given up control, but they didn't have all of their members go down. They didn't commit to defending the zone, and that is exactly what nets them the recap here, and that push not being as successful coming in from the side of Pixio Monster.
And I love what they did right there. They sent 2 people at the top up after 0, and then when Kyo was ready to rotate over to respond and help 0, they had their 3rd member sharking waiting for the help to come back over there, understanding where the rotation was going to come from and cutting it off prematurely. On the other side of that, all they had to do was make sure that their Tent Umbrella was able to keep some force on the zone, and it was going to be a 3v2 there. So again, it does look like they've lost control of the top. They might be able to get their jumps in time. It does look like Ku is able to get back there and fight for the zone a little bit, but I think that at that point they were just stuck in split spawn and they weren't going to be able to get there, especially as far up as they were pushed. But that's the kind of stuff that you want to see, and that's the stuff that the higher level teams are able to do, is understanding, all right, they have the range to rotate over very safely. We're going to have to get a little bit more underhanded with the way that we cut them off, and that's mid-game adaptation. You love to see it.
Mid-game adaptation, and that's certainly something that we're going to have to continue watching, and something that's going to rise in importance even more, especially as we're talking about, these better and better teams starting to come forward. The foil is going to go ahead and start to take control of this zone. Power is down for the time being, but Tera's going to be able to find that pick onto that foil roller. Not going to be enough for the time being. Looks like a 10 umbrella duel now happening in zone. Tera's going to be one of the last up for this side of Dream. That's going to be the cap. Still stays alive with this curling bomb rush. How are you alive? This 10 umbrella, such an annoying weapon, especially when you got those curling bombs bouncing all over the place, painting the zone again and again and again. Will be able to find a pick and still hasn't gone down despite giving up control of this zone. Tera is playing phenomenally right now.
I think Tera clipped after that too. There was like a second after that last pick that I think Tera just stopped moving, and I think that was because he clipped that, and that is a clip-worthy moment right there. When you talk about what you want Tent Umbrella to do, I'm not sure that you can ask for much more than that. Be a nuisance on zone, get a pick, stay alive, wait out the opponent's special, and then at the end of all of it, take down their frontliner while staying alive there. I mean, that's probably the best play that I've seen Tera make over the course of this. And that's not a slight. That's saying that was that good of a play. They do lose the zone here. That was 3 specials that had to be used to take it, and they were able to force them back in the middle of that as well. So they're going to get a chance for a lockout right here. And this is probably the first time that we've seen them actually have to take back against a fully fledged defense. And look at that foil flings a sharking underneath them with 2 picks right there. Make it 3. And right now, Zero's like, guys, what do I do?
And right now, there's not much he can do. Looks like he is going to be able to find a pick there onto that foil squeezer. But right now, this map is predominantly purple. Looks like it's going to be a 3-down situation, though. I don't know exactly what else happened off of my screen. I think a bomb happened. It was
a bomb. Yeah, one fell. Zero got that pick and then threw a bomb. And I think that someone who had just jumped in came right into a bomb on the other side. So we said Zero saying, what do I do, guys? Well, I just get 2 down and maybe win us the game. How about that?
That works too. Looks like Tera's going to pop this curling bomb rush yet again to try to maintain some control above this map. 4 seconds left to go here for Pixio Monster. The bubbles are going to come in, but they're not going to get popped in time, and that is going to be a game going to Dream. Well played there. And, one thing, going back to that moment from Tera on that 10 umbrella, thinking about, I wish you would see more clips kind of like that, where they're not just impressive quads or impressive solo plays, but they're playing around the objective, right? Even the amount of time that Tera was able to stall for, not letting that cap come in, letting your opponents respawn, and things like that along the way, I think that was crucial overall. And I would like to see more clips of that on Twitter in general, because right now you can just see quad on FT win all over the place.
Man, you'd think with all the times FT win gets quadded, they wouldn't win so much, but
You would think.
You would think.
You would really think.
So, yeah, I'm not alone in seeing that the lobby was shut down.
Yeah, that's correct. Looks like it was. I think that's going to be all we get to see today, but that was a lot of fun, personally. A little bit of difficulty there partway through, but it was certainly a good time. I hope somebody learned something from watching these impressive players play. Of course, I'm no FLC when it comes to analysis, and I'm never going to claim to be. But it was certainly interesting to watch these 2 teams play, watching the strategies they employ, and what strategies we start to see being perfected in terms of, those lockout situations, looking for those long pushes towards the end of the game, and even looking to try to maintain your life when it comes to giving up the zone perhaps to your opponent.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that as we go back and maybe this set, and thank you for recording this too, so we'll get to see it with an overhead view here and really analyze the macro game of the way that these teams are playing. I'm eager to kind of look over this a second time because at first glance there's a lot that you can miss here. And I think that sometimes we're so bewildered by the comps and the way that the weapons are trying to play that we're deciphering it mid-game. And now that I think we have a better understanding of what some of these comps are trying to do, what some of these teams are trying to do and their goals in the middle of the game, I think it'll be that much easier for us to break down what it is they're trying to do. And really, I guess, try to grapple with what these teams are doing, what positions they're trying to establish, what situations they enjoy most. And that's the fun thing about this game. Like, we keep learning new things. We keep seeing new compositions that we have to adapt to and learn how to deal with. And I think today, again, just shows we're kicking the tires once again. Let's see. Now Foil flings that was a mainstay in that. I think they used it every single game, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe one game, I think Moray Towers, maybe they didn't use it, or maybe they rotated someone else over that wasn't Jakashi, but stunning stuff.
Stunning stuff, certainly. I mean, I think I mentioned at some point during that, but it is worth noting the slight disclaimer that, of course, this is a scrimmage. This is supposed to be one of those more testing ground type scenarios, right? This isn't going to be something that they know works, that they're going to give their all to move forward with, and perhaps that foil roller was just something that the side of Pixio Monster wanted to try out. Like, hey, let's see if this works. Let's see what it can do as we think on paper it should be able to work, but let's watch it actually come together and come to fruition against a competitive team. And of course, that's a lot of what we saw overall today. I would not imagine that you see Kyo on K Machine as many times in tournament as you saw him on it today. Of course, he's insanely good on the weapon, but in some cases it might just not have that presence. In any event, Nine, of course, thank you again for joining me this morning. Was certainly a lot of fun to do something a little bit new and different and wake up early in order to do this.
Well, hey, you've got a full day ahead, so go brew yourself another cup of coffee, sir. You got a long one here.
Very true. Thank you all. I'm probably going to stop the recording now. Sorry I couldn't do this live. Unfortunately, my internet is really not great with like less than a megabyte per second of upload speed. So if I did try to stream this, it would look like complete and utter garbage. And I don't want to give that to you guys. I'd rather give you guys something that has a little bit more higher quality so that you can actually tell what's going on from the overhead view as opposed to like trying to guess what that smudge is doing on the map. So hope you all enjoyed this. Hope to try to do more stuff like this in the future if there's more of these kind of scrimmages that I can pick up on. Certainly go give Nine a follow. He probably does a lot more educational Splatoon content than I do, and you probably want to listen to him because he is much more of a student of the game than I am. I'm just the one that sits there and yells at people to get in their matches. With all that aside, thank you all so much for joining us, and I'll catch you all around.